Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant on Funny Pages, an indie movie about the comic book industry and how sad and pathetic it is. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books, links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's The Pineys, books 1 through 9, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. All right, so we got a protagonist. He wants to be a cartoonist, and he wants to drop out of college. His friends all tell him, you are drawing at a professional level, and that's possible. It's totally possible, you know. In fact, a lot of guys, it's better. They start hustling 4 years earlier, don't go to college, if you can make the leap to professional comics. These days, of course, there's not a lot of money in comics, or for very few people, I'll say. This appears to take place, I'm going to say in the 90s, maybe late 80s, probably the 90s, and takes place in New Jersey, because there's a moment where he says, I'm getting a place in Trenton, and somebody goes, wow. I think he's still in high school when this starts. Anyhow, at some point he meets a former image artist, and he wants him to teach him, but he's kind of a weird guy and not a good guy. And so there's a lot of like quirky characters who are old and weird, and he's weird and he's quirky, and he wants to do these quirky things, and there are all these awkward moments, but it does look fun. It does look fun. You got a lot of comics back here. From the era of comics in the background, what do we got here? Army Attack, Silver Hawks, House of Mystery. They're pretty old. So yeah, I think this is, and he works in a comic book store, of course. So I think this does take place probably in the late 80s. No, it would have to be in the 90s, because he mentions Image. So in the 90s, I'm going to say mid 90s. Long enough, maybe 95, something like that. I'll peg it at. Let me see the car in this, because that'll help. So there's the car. Yeah, they kind of look old. They don't look particularly new. I mean, the whole movie looks very run down. The computers look not super new, so maybe early 2000s. Maybe early 2000s. Could be the modern age too, but I gotta think it's at least pre-pandemic. But he's got the parents who worry about him, and it looks funny. It looks funny in a very indie movie way, where there's going to be all these awkward moments where nothing really resolves itself properly, and everybody's just sort of hung out to dry in this torturous, awkward silence in a lot of the bits, So, yeah, I mean, as a comic book guy, I'm sort of biased towards this. Because I would love to see these guys made fun of. This guy also has apparently like a hair lip. Does the actor really have that, or is he got some sort of prosthetic that gave him that, I wonder. But apparently he did work for Image Comics. I wonder if this is based on a real guy or whatever. But it's called Funny Pages. And there's the scene where the car drives into the garage. That looks funny. I mean, I may be biased towards it, but it does look good. So, first act, your protagonist here, I forget his name already. Let's see if there's any more about this. From writer-director Owen Klein and starring Daniel, I can't say that name, Zalgardri and Matthew Marr. Matthew Marr. Produced by Josh and Benny Safdie, Funny Pages, in select theaters. Available on demand August 26th. So I would see it on demand. Would I go to the theater? If my comic book buddies were in town and we all wanted to see it. Yeah, that would be an excuse for me and my comic book cohorts. Yeah, have you seen Funny Pages yet? No, I haven't seen it. Let's go see it. Make fun of the comic book industry. See what it's all about. So, the studio behind Moonlight, Ladybird, Ex Machina, The Witch, 8th Grade, Minari, Uncut Gems, Hereditary, Everything Everywhere, All at Once, and more. They got a pretty good track record. It's A24, right? Yeah. So first act, the kid wants to become a cartoonist. He tells his parents. They're totally against it. They put up some road. First, they try to talk him out of it. Then they put up some roadblocks. Well, you're gonna have to get your own place. You're gonna have to have a job, and blah 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 blah. So he starts looking for his own place. He gets this dumpy place in Trenton. It's a weird situation where he's sharing a room with a guy or living in somebody's house, so it's not ideal. But that's unimportant. No one seems to mind. They're all weird, quirky characters. He works at the comic book store. He's trying to make it as a cartoonist. The cartoonists tell him he's good. And then one day at his job, he's got another job in an office, I think. He runs into a guy who used to work for Image Comics, where he tells him that. Now, maybe it's not true. Maybe there's a revelation where he didn't actually work for Image Comics. See, Office of Public Defender. Oh, that's where he works. Okay. So it's this guy. Yeah, so maybe he's in trouble with the law because he had to go to a public defender. And so he offers to pay him to teach him about comics or teach him how to be a comic book artist or whatever. And he agrees to do it because he needs money and starts teaching him, but he doesn't really want to, doesn't like him. Probably badmouths the entire industry and is a big weirdo too. Then he brings him. He likes him so much, because he's struck by the guy. He brings him home during the holidays. There's a big awkward situation where something happens and he has to wash his feet. I don't know why. And then there's, maybe he's trying to help him. He's a messed up guy or something, and the kid is just relatively normal. So, but he's got a big ego, tells the kid he's failed. Oh, you failed. This is a total failure. So in the second act, it's all about their relationship, and So the first act is, I want to be a cartoonist, all the way up to the moment he meets the guy, the image artist. Second act is probably their relationship. He tries to teach him, but he's not a good teacher. He's a total weirdo. The kid tries to help him out. He does everything he can, and he has limited resources to help him. The guy just is a big screw up, but eventually comes to like the kid and feel bad that it keeps failing him, and then maybe he reveals that it doesn't really work. He never really worked at Image. He worked someplace else that was kind of close to Image, or maybe he was never a comic book guy at all. I don't know. And then the kid becomes dejected, and then he feels bad, and he uses what limited resources he has to make it up to the kid in some way to get his love of cartoons and comics to rekindle it a little bit, even though he hates the industry and the industry has been terrible to him. And he sort of redeems himself in that, and the kid learns something, and it's sort of this awkward, crazy world we all live in where people are awkward and crazy and weird. So, not the worst movie I've ever saw. I mean, the whole thing for this kind of movie, it has to be funny enough. Now, it doesn't have to be laugh out funny airplane style, but it does have to be funny. We got to have interesting, quirky scenes. It can't be stuff we've seen before. The comic industry can provide a lot of that. I can speak from personal experience. It depends on how far they're willing to go and how engaging these actors are. I think it's on point. I mean, I'm not super shot out of the gate saying yes, definitely. I think it could suck. But I think the chances of that are only about 20-25%. I think it'll probably be okay, at least very watchable, possibly very good. It's hard to compete with a movie, say, like Crumb, if you've ever seen Crumb, which was a documentary, but it's friggin' awesome. This is trying, I think, to capture that sort of quirkiness, like in Crumb and Ghost World and movies like that. So, yet again, Hollywood portrays all us comic guys as a bunch of weirdos. And we are. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. We got a Hollywoke hot take and a news blast. I will be at Whitesbog this Saturday for another blueberry festival. Blueberries, doggy. She loves blueberries, loves them, and you should love them too. So we'll see you tomorrow.